Malachi and Matthew is 400 years. In those 400 years, when Jesus walked the earth, not those 400 years, Jesus is always walking the earth, but before Jesus walked the earth, a religion developed called Judaism. Now, when I wrote the book, Fashion to Reign, in the middle of writing the book, my publisher called and said, hey, you know this book, we gave you a contract for 40,000 words. I said, yeah. They said, well, we think it should be 75,000 words. Can you please double the length of the book? Only one problem, I was at 30,000 words and out of things to say. So I ended up with 400 hours of research. And I'm so glad that they did that and that they asked me to lengthen the book, because I feel like now it was the Lord. And it opened up a world, not just for women, but for the Gospels. And here's what I learned. It might be helpful to you if you haven't heard this before. In those 400 years, a religion developed called Judaism. Now, I thought Judaism, you know, we've all heard Judaism. I thought Judaism was kind of a word for the Old Testament religion, but it actually wasn't. When Jesus walked the earth, he did not walk the earth in what we would call Mosaic law. For example, there is no Pharisees in the Old Testament. Did you notice you can read the whole Old Testament and not read the word Pharisee? You can read the whole Old Testament and not read the word Sadducee. And you'll notice that the scribes in the days of Jesus had a completely different role than the scribes in the Old Testament. And what I'm getting at is this: Sadducees, Pharisees, and now the scribes, they were the leaders of developing this religion that came out of the law of Moses. It was developed out of the law of Moses, but they added a bunch more rules, and it became a completely separate religion. So when Jesus was alive in first century, he was not alive in first century Mosaic law. He was alive in a religion called Judaism. Are you with me? Now, just so you know, just to give you an idea, there was, in the Old Testament, if you took all the commandments of the Old Testament, you know, the 10 Commandments plus all the Levitical law and the laws around eating, the laws around sexuality, the laws around marriage, all of those laws, if you took them all together, there was 252 of them. When Jesus walked the earth, in Judaism, there was 613 laws. 613. Now, here, this will get you. Almost 100 of those laws were written against women. Pharisees hated women. So when Jesus came to set the oppressed free, guess who the most oppressed people group were on the planet in Judaism? Women.